On this episode of AMC Movie Talk, we speak to Robert Pattinson about Twilight Breaking Dawn Part 2, Mark Wahlberg in Transformers 4, Star Wars gets a new writer, and much more. So sit tight, AMC Movie Talk starts right now.
Welcome to AMC Movie Talk for movie fans. This is episode number 25, originally recorded on Thursday, November the 15th, 2012, at the beautiful AMC Burbank 16 in Burbank, California. Our Pats. Thanks a lot for joining us, folks. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to AMC Movie Talk for movie fans. As always, I am your host. My name is John Campy. I'm the senior editor for AMC Movie News. Joining me, first of all, immediately to my right, she is the brand spanking new associate editor of AMC Movie News, Miss Amirose Eisenbach. Amy Rose, thanks for being here.
What up?
Sitting next to Amy Rose, of course, he's a regular here, Mr. John Schnepp. John, how you doing?
What's up? What's going on?
Doing well. And sitting at the back table there, she's monitoring all the questions as she usually does, Miss Suri Serrano. Suri.
Hi, everybody.
And, of course, the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain, the man who runs everything, Mr. Dennis Zen. Dennis.
Woo.
How's it going, everyone?
And we are going to start off this episode of AMC Movie Talk the way we do with every episode of AMC Movie Talk by getting you caught up to date on everything going on in the world of movie news with your news flash. We all know Star Wars Episode 7 is coming, and while we still don't know who will direct the film, we do know who's going to write it. Academy Award-winning screenwriter Michael Arndt has officially been announced as the scribe for the new Star Wars films, reportedly based on a treatment by George Lucas. If you're not familiar with Arndt's name, he's written such film as Little Miss Sunshine, which he won his Academy Award for, and the upcoming Hunger Games: Catching Fire.
Speaking of Star Wars, while a lot of speculation still exists about who will direct the new films, you can start taking some names off that list. This week, 300 and the upcoming Superman film Man of Steel director Zack Snyder, Steven Spielberg, and Quentin Tarantino have all publicly stated that they are not interested in the project.
Remember how there was that rumor that Mark Wahlberg was going to star in Transformers 4 and then Michael Bay came out and expressly denied the rumor? Well, it's official. Mark Wahlberg is going to star in Transformers 4, which teaches us to never believe anything Michael Bay says. Also, Bay has revealed that Transformers 4 will take place 4 years after the events of Transformers 3. Bay said the following: "The movie is going to continue 4 years from the attack on Chicago," Bay says, "which was in the last movie. It's going to have the same lineage, but it's going to have full new direction. It also feels very natural how it's going in that direction. We're doing a lot of things that are really going to make it fresh and feel new." Now, this is all well and good, but considering Bay's record for telling the truth, don't be surprised if Transformers 4 actually happens in the 1800s, where giant robots battle the ancestors of the Care Bears with the official title of T4 Care Bear Stare.
I'd watch that.
I'm totally seeing that.
Scream fans were given another bit of disappointing news as Wes Craven took to Twitter the other day and stated, "No news on Scream 5 yet. You guys really want another one?" Since Scream 3 made under $40 million domestically and around $98 million worldwide, I guess the answer to that question is no.
If you're like me and you loved the new Amazing Spider-Man movie, you'll be happy to hear that shooting for the sequel starts in just 3 months with a February 2013 start date. They've also revealed that the Spidey costume is going under a little bit of a redesign to accommodate slightly bigger eyes, more pronounced web shooters, and this is true, star Andrew Garfield will now be able to go to the bathroom since, according to the actor, the old costume gave him no way to pee.
Yay.
All right.
Whenever a conversation about potential video game movies pop up, Splinter Cell is usually in the mix. As many of you know, a film version of the game is on the way, and now we know who will star in it. Bane himself, Tom Hardy, will take on the lead role of Sam Fisher, a covert operative assigned to a top-secret national security agency branch called the Third Echelon in the adaptation. Besides The Dark Knight Rises, Hardy also has starred in such films as Warrior, Lawless, which was awesome, and Bronson.
All right, Tom Hardy.
It's also awesome. As if you needed an excuse, first of all, to go see the midnight showing of the upcoming Hobbit on December 14th, Star Trek fans now have extra motivation. Paramount Pictures is finally going to give fans a really good look at the upcoming sequel, Star Trek Into Darkness. On December 14th, the first 9 minutes of footage from the 2013 release will screen in 3D at IMAX Theatres before the showing of The Hobbit: An Unexpected Journey. Star Trek Into Darkness opens in AMC Theatres everywhere on May 17th, 2013.
It looks like they're still trying to put a twin sequel together.
Oh, good.
It's being reported that Universal Pictures has hired Josh Gad and Ryan Dixon to draft the screenplay to Triplets, the sequel to the 1988 comedy.
Finally.
This time, it's not just Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito as the twins. They discover that they're actually triplets and have a long-lost third brother who is obviously Eddie Murphy.
What?
Obviously.
Amazing.
Still not sure if this one will actually ever go into production, but we'll keep you updated.
It looks like James Wan, director of Saw and Insidious, is in line to direct a MacGyver movie for New Line Cinema. Yes, this would be based on the actual 1980s hit show MacGyver and not the horrible, terrible, awful spin-off comedy from last year, MacGruber. No word yet on who will star in the film. And that will do it for your news flash. Hey folks, listen, we're really glad you're joining us today, and we've got a whole bunch of things that we're going to get into and discuss in a little bit more in depth. But pause what you're doing before we go any further. We want you to take a second and click that subscribe button. That's right. We want you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is, of course, youtube.com/AMC Theatres. But chances are you're probably already watching this on YouTube. Just click that subscribe button, and you will be able to keep up to date on everything that goes on with our video stuff, including our editorials, movie news, and, of course, every single episode of AMC Movie Talk. So once again, stop what you're doing, click subscribe. We'll wait for you. And now we will continue. And thank you so much for your support. All right, we got a few things to talk about here today. And, we shoot this show, as you know, at the AMC Burbank 16 in Burbank, California. And I got here this morning about 7:15 in the morning to start getting ready for everything. And there was already a lineup of about 50 people out front. There's another lineup now. People lining up for the first screenings of Twilight later tonight at 10 p.m. Yeah, I don't know why they're doing it at 10 p.m. instead of midnight, but it's 10 p.m. Now, Twilight is a franchise that I think is safe to say is a very divisive topic amongst film fans. You have people who absolutely love this franchise, will die for this franchise. You have people who absolutely hate and despise this franchise. Now, I find, I said this in my review the other day, I find that people generally break into one of two categories. Either the completely blind fans who refuse to acknowledge any problems with the film, or the completely blind haters who refuse to acknowledge anything good about the franchise. But that's what Twilight is. Now, but there is no denying the success of this franchise.
Yeah.
Now, I think the first one made about $300 million worldwide. Since then, the next three, not one of them has made under $690 million worldwide. I mean,
a lot of money.
Yeah.
There's no debating that this series is a successful series and has had a huge influence on pop culture. The whole Team Edward, Team Jacob thing was massive. Coming into the final film tonight. Now, I want to talk about Twilight in general terms, but I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this. It opens tonight. I've seen Twilight Breaking Dawn Part 2 twice already.
Diehard fan.
I am not a Twilight fan. I'll just put that out there. I'm not a Twilight hater either. I don't think the first four Twilight films are any good, but I've never thought any of them were absolutely wretched and horrible the way some people make them out to be. I just not a fan. Twilight Breaking Dawn Part 2 is a good movie. It's a good movie. I enjoyed it. It's funny. The way I describe it to a lot of people is this. Take your stereotypical, traditional Twilight film, add one or two pretty cool elements, subtract two or three really annoying elements, and what you're left with is Breaking Dawn Part 2 and a pretty good movie.
Wow.
So
High praise indeed.
Let's talk about this for a second. Amy Rose, you've read the books.
I have.
The Twilight books. You've seen all the Twilight films.
Mm-hmm.
What is the appeal of Twilight to most people? Because, it doesn't just have fans. It has psychotically passionate
it
fans.
does.
What's the appeal?
I mean, I'm kind of where you lie. I'm more neutral. I can definitely understand why people hate it. It's absolutely ridiculous. I'll put that out there. But I feel like people are really drawn first in the initial part of the story. The whole concept behind, the lion falling in love with the lamb. This vampire falling in love with his prey. And I think that was really cool because there were all these difficulties. And then as you watch the develop, I don't want to reveal too many spoilers, but I feel like everyone knows by now in this next film, Bella's actually a vampire. So you watch the entire evolution of this romance, and I think people also are fascinated with the idea of immortality. Vampires are huge, and actually watching, the effects on different vampires and the different powers that they possess because they become immortal is really fascinating to people. Is it ridiculous? Yes, but that aspect, vampires have been all the rage for some time. I think that's definitely part of the reason.
John, you come from a very unique perspective on this because you have actually not seen any of the Twilight films.
Not, except for the trailers, I have not seen even
It's kind of
Twilight
talent
movie.
At this point.
So I was just saying earlier, I was like, I'll see them all when they're all done, and now they're showing like all of them in a row.
Oh yeah.
So eventually I will see all of them. Funny side note, I actually babysat Kristen Stewart.
I forgot about that.
2003 when I worked on the Orlando Jones show. Her dad is like a guy who's like a production supervisor, like first AD, and he's like, "Yo, John, my daughter's coming here, and you're the only dude I trust on set. Will you watch my kid?" And she was like 14 or something, so I was like, "Yo, here's some cool comics to read. You can hang out, watch me edit." And she was really awesome and nice. So
is she?
I'm really happy for her. Awesome job, Kristen, for making $400 million.
Are you a trustworthy babysitter?
I was.
I was going to say, maybe you're the reason she seems so disturbed these days.
That's right. Hey,
Early
I'll
on.
take that credit. But no, I think I turned her on to some cool comic books. That's what I'll
Okay.
say. So the reason I haven't seen Twilight is it really just never hit me in my interest. First of all, I'm not a young adult. So I could see why people would get into it. And even the books, it has this really kind of like, it definitely is like a Harlequin romance for vampires. And that's kind of just not my thing. And the movies never really drew me to want to see them. So I
do like vampires. I'm not gonna lie.
I like vampires too, but I like gory horror vampires. I'm
Right.
just, and then this kind of spin on vampires was like, I'm totally fine with it making $500 billion. It doesn't interest me.
I think women love vampires, especially because of the way they kill. There's a very central aspect to the way a vampire attacks your neck and kills you. That I think a lot of women feel the same on that matter.
Well, Dracula and vampirism in general is all a sex, innuendo.
Sure
It's all about sex. So this version of sex for me is
Kristen
like,
Stewart knows nothing about that.
hey, I'm not going to say Kristen Stewart doesn't know anything about sex. All right, I'm just going to say that. Twilight just doesn't hit it for me. So
Totally
maybe
fair.
maybe I'm totally wrong because I haven't
No,
seen them,
that's
so I
fair.
can't prejudge it. I'm not a hater or a lover of the series. I just haven't seen it. So.
Right, and I think one of the initial things that turned people like me off to Twilight initially was this concept of, come on, we have seen this story a million times. A vampire with no soul who's actually a good vampire, wants nothing more to be human, and he falls in love with a mortal girl and all the... That's I just described 50 movies and TV shows. Like right there, I just described 50 of them. And so I didn't like the lack of originality with it. Although it did have original elements that did intrigue me. Like I remember the idea of that they took the liberty, and I like this, I applaud this, to play around with some of the traditional vampire mythologies. The sunlight doesn't burn them to death; it actually just causes them to be revealed because their skin sparkles. That's a diversion from a traditional vampire thing, and I applaud that. I was kind of intrigued with the idea that all vampires are fast and strong, but each one of them also comes with a very unique ability or gift.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting. I like the way they drew their mythologies between the werewolves and the vampires. I think they did some very brave things.
Agreed.
With the Twilight story. I could have done without the... Here's my problem with a lot of the Twilight films. Good love stories only need moments of outward, explicit expression of affection. They need moments of those, and then the rest of the romance is conveyed subtly, like with gestures and movements and acts and things like that.
This is over the top.
But with the Twilight series, they feel the need that they have to have 18 conversations in each movie of, I love you so much, I'm going to die if I can't breathe what's coming out of your
Yeah.
nose. They have to do that over and over and over again because apparently they assume that the audience is too stupid to get it.
Yeah.
And so I got really tired of that. But that's part of the reason why I like this new movie, because with Bella becoming a vampire at the end of the last one, a lot of those storylines are now closed. They're married now, they have a kid now, and she's a vampire. A lot of the things
Half
that were
vampire.
annoying.
Sounds kind of domestic.
Like all these things now that were really annoying about Twilight to me were removed. It left the good things. It added a few more good things. Has a deadly end battle scene. Like, sure, you actually saw it with me the first time that I saw it. Like that, you really loved the film, didn't you?
Okay, I did. I absolutely loved part 2. I originally, when the first and second movies came out, I hadn't seen them. It just, like you said, it didn't capture my interest. But then once I did see the first one, I was completely hooked, and then had to see the second one and was completely hooked. And I think what it was for me was the romantic love story. And I know, it's a little too much for some people, but for me, I'm a romantic, and I got completely caught up in the story of it all. And the part 2 was so much fun. I mean, I didn't see the twist coming. I didn't see, all the little surprise elements there. And what a battle scene.
Yeah, the final
really
battle scene is amazing. But I do have a theory about why girls love not just the vampire characters in general, but specifically these ones in particular. Do you remember that movie with Christian Slater? The name is something, I think, is it Random Heart? No, Wild Heart?
Untamed Heart.
Untamed Heart. Yep. You and I are going to have a conversation about why you knew that so fast. But yeah, Untamed Heart, where I remember there's a scene in that movie.
I
was going to say Heathers.
And this is the only scene that I really remember from it. But it's like he stalks her and like all this kind of stuff. And to girls, that seemed like a romantic notion. Like in Twilight, you have a guy breaking into a room and watch her
being
asleep.
stalked.
But here is really what it comes down to. This is why girls love this. This is John Campy, a relationship expert, coming at you right now.
I'm scared.
This is why girls love this so much. Everybody knows, and Dennis, get ready with the beep. Girls love they do. Girls love jerks. They do right from the moment they're in grade 8 until maybe they hit 30.
You're saying Edward is a jerk?
Hold on a second. Let me get there for a second. We all good guys know that girls go for the morons. They go for the jerks, the idiots, the people who will mistreat them and be bad to them. The thing about Twilight.
I've been bad. Yes, you have. Say it again. You've been bad.
The thing about Twilight is it encapsulates that fantasy of a lot of young girls' desires to be with the bad boy. So, for instance, the dangerous guy. Edward is the epitome of dangerous. He wants to kill her. He wants to eat her. He wants to drink her blood. All this kind of stuff. He's the epitome of dangerous. He's the outsider. He's all this bad stuff. So it encapsulates all that. But it's the ultimate safety net that deep down he's actually very sweet and tender and loving and kind. So it's like the best of both worlds for a lot of the teenage girl fantasy stuff.
Yeah.
And that's what it brings. So they get to have all that. And it's the same thing that reminded me of that Christian Slater thing. It's like, wait a minute. Girls, are you telling me you want a guy to be a creepy stalker? Well, if it's Christian Slater, well, creepy stalkers all think they're Christian Slater. And then if they stalk you, you'll see that as a romantic overture. But no, you'll call the police, as you should. And so I think when you get into the Twilight story, that's what it is. It's the fantasy of the bad boy with the safety net of actually being a good guy. When really bad boys are just bad. But that's real life. So I think it's a bit of fantasy. Am I out to lunch? What do you think? When I'm saying all that stuff, how does that strike you? Am I crazy, or do you think that makes sense?
I think you're onto something. I definitely think that, Edward epitomizes exactly that. It's like the bad boy that you can't stay away from and you should, but like he's really good to you at the same time. And you can't really have him forever, but at the same time, the moment you walk away, he freaks out. So yeah, I think you're onto something. Now, what about Jacob,
Well, Jacob's
werewolf?
the other side. Jacob's the ultimate
good guy that never wins?
And the hot guy. Yeah, the good guy that doesn't win, and he's the hot guy. I mean, it's...
Arpads isn't so bad on the eyes either.
I'll say this, though, about Arpads. Did I just say Arpads?
You guys are saying Arpads. I'm about to walk off of the show. I'm about to leave.
I think I'm going to need therapy. The one thing I'll say about Robert Pattinson, very good looking dude, clear. And you know what? I've met with him and spoken with him a number of times, and he's actually he is a legitimate sweetheart. Actually, him and Taylor Lautner both.
They really are.
I really like them both.
Yeah.
But the thing is, Taylor Lautner gets on screen, right? And they always find an excuse for him to take his shirt off. And in
shirt's
this
always
movie,
off.
it's pretty funny. The way they get him to... the excuse they come up with for him to get undressed on camera is actually pretty funny.
Did she bleed or
But
something? He's
no,
like, here.
he takes his shirt off, and all of the girls go absolutely
of course.
crazy, right? And then Robert Pattinson takes his shirt off in the movie. It's like, somebody give that boy a sandwich. It's like somebody give
They
that
even
kid a
airbrushed him
burger.
too, and it didn't
Did
give
they
him much.
airbrush him a little
Yeah.
bit? But anyway,
But he's a sweetie.
but
It's the accent. That's what
bottom
gets the
line
ladies.
is, you know what? This movie opens in AMC Theaters everywhere tonight, and
It's gonna crush it.
it's I'm telling you guys, look, my cred is gonna take a beating for saying this, but I don't care. It's a good movie, and I think if people go into it with an open mind, I think many of you will agree it's a good film.
You accept it for what it is. It's a cultural
Yeah.
phenomenon. It's ridiculous, but it's a good time.
And see Cosmopolis, David Cronenberg's movie, while you're at it.
I still have not seen
I haven't either.
Cosmopolis, and I'm dying to. I really
too.
want to see him in that. All right, well, let's move on from Twilight, sparkling vampires to sparkling robots.
Oh man.
Okay, so as we mentioned in the news flash, like this is just so ridiculous. The rumor comes out last week. Mark Wahlberg's going to be in Transformers 4. Michael Bay instantly takes to his website. Not true. Me and Mark Wahlberg are talking about another movie. And guess what? Mark Wahlberg is officially the star of Transformers 4. So John, let's start with you. I know you're a huge Transformers fan.
Super Transformers fan. Wait, look, I'm a robot. Yeah, I love. Oh, there's a dog peeing on my leg. Let me hide behind a building. Second movie: sweating, desert, weirdness, robots, dust, sweating, desert, weirdness, robots, more robots, dust, sleeping, sweating. Movie ends.
Hot Babe was in there too. Come on.
Hey, that's the only cool thing about the first two Transformers. And then the third one I actually liked. I liked the third Transformers movie. I was so shocked that I actually found it entertaining.
So what do you think about this news about Mark Wahlberg stepping in? And
I think it's great. I think Mark Wahlberg's a great actor. He's really good. I think he was amazing in The Departed. He was amazing in The He's a
Departed.
really good actor, and people give him a lot of they don't give him the respect I think he deserves as a real actor. Sure, he's going to take a bunch of silly roles once in a while. A lot of actors take bad roles or whatnot. So an actor sometimes is just an actor. Like they're like, some people treat their craft like, hey, I'm a tool to be used and hired. Sometimes I get a good script and I work with a good director. Sometimes I get a bad script, work with a bad director. That's how some people approach their craft. Other times they're really selective. I hold out. I read the scripts. It all depends on each actor. But
He's great at comedy too.
he's really funny.
Yeah.
So I think the Transformers 4 movie, I secretly think he's going to play Space Turtle. He's going to be from the Secret Ninja Turtles, and Bay has somehow worked a way to
I
combine
hope
this
them.
is Bay's way to get his
he's
teenage
got
mutant
it's called
ninja aliens.
Transformers 4 Space Turtles, and it's basically going to be like Ninja Turtles. Mark Wahlberg's the emissary of the Turtle Empire from another dimension, and he's going to look just like himself. Only he's going to have this kind of backpack shell thing that kind of transforms into a giant Gamera. So I'm really excited about the movie. I actually cannot wait to see it.
Wow.
I actually think Mark Wahlberg, I'm glad you mentioned The Departed. I think since The Departed, I think he has gotten a lot of respect.
He's great.
And I never really thought of him as being very good in comedy until that Date Night that he did. It was a small role in Date Night.
It was a good role though.
But he played it so deadpan and so funny. I just thought it was great. I thought he was okay in that Will Ferrell film they did. What was it, The Other Guys?
Oh, right.
I heard Huckabees. He was hilarious.
He was incredible in Huckabees. That's what sold me on him.
Hilarious.
Right.
That's when I first
Yeah.
the first movie I saw that was like,
Petroleum Situation.
Mark Wahlberg is really funny.
He's so funny in
You
that.
know?
And
He's a good actor.
look, every Christian Slater gets all the Christian Slater.
Not anymore.
Batman, Christian Bale gets all the credit for Fighter, and he was amazing in Fighter. Take nothing
Yeah.
away. But the unfortunate thing about that is that Mark Wahlberg was really
He was
solid
great.
in that
Yeah.
film.
And so was Amy
really
Adams.
solid. And so
all
was
the,
Amy
all the
Adams.
actors in that film was a great
Phenomenal,
film.
yeah.
Depressing and strange.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
really
Great.
well acted. Yeah.
So I think this is an interesting. I just seeing as he's basically, when he takes a big role, people will instantly talk about him now as, hey, could be Oscar nomination, that type of stuff. He's got that one with Russell Crowe coming out that's actually looking pretty good. Something City. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. I find him doing a Transformers movie to be an interesting. Now, I know he's just worked with Michael Bay on Pain and Gain.
Yeah.
And maybe,
man.
I don't know, maybe it's just ladies and booze all the time with Michael Bay, and they just have such a great time working together that he wanted to do it. I just find it strange. I'm a little bit different from you. I loved the first Transformers movie. I'll acknowledge all the problems with it, but I loved it. I ate that movie up because I grew up as a huge Transformers
You didn't like
fan.
the second, though. We're not going to defend that,
I
right?
detested the second.
Okay, good.
I hated it.
We're good.
And I also didn't like the third. Although, I mean, hey, that last 45-minute battle sequence is a feast for the eyes. Absolutely. I just find this interesting that he would take a role like this. What do you think, Amy Rose?
Well, since Transformers is a comedy and Wahlberg's a great comedy star, I think it's going to be great. When I first heard the news, I definitely thought it was really random. Obviously knew why, Pain and Gain, all that good stuff. But yeah, it feels like a very interesting fit. I love Wahlberg. Transformers kind of lost me. Yes, the third kind of redeemed itself, but it doesn't quite do it for me anymore. I do love Optimus Prime. He's kind of awesome. But So when I first heard the news, I thought it was interesting. Yes, I'll see it, but I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how they weave it. And with no Shia, that's also very, very interesting.
I think it's better without Shia.
I agree.
I think it actually steps it up a notch, having Mark Wahlberg in it.
Yeah, I think Shia LaBeouf is going
He's a
to
good
be
actor.
is a good actor, going to be a great actor.
Yeah, I agree.
I think he ran out of steam with that character.
He was very limited in that role.
It's just, how many times can you look slightly 10 degrees off from the camera and yell, Optimus! Like, how many times can you do that? And it's good for him to move on from that. You mentioned loving Optimus Prime. Me and my friend used to joke around, but this is probably true from childhood. We all have our own moral compass. But there are 3 people who could influence me and tell me to do the most immoral things, and I will do it. Santa Claus, Chewbacca, and Optimus Prime.
It's a pretty good list.
And if they Chewbacca could tell me to do, and Optimus Prime could tell me to do.
John, none of those people are real. None of them exist.
Kill them. I say,
Santa Claus doesn't exist.
like he could
One
say,
of those people does exist.
like Optimus Prime could say, John, go and kick that 5-year-old child in the face, and I'd say, yes, Optimus Prime. Whatever you say, Optimus Prime.
This just got really dark.
That's just how I grew up. But
awesome.
Dennis, I want your kick on this, just quick. You hear Mark Wahlberg is going to be in Transformers. Like your first reaction when you heard that?
I like Mark Wahlberg, and I think he's a good actor, but I also think Shia LaBeouf was a good actor, and he's actually one of the better things about the first 3 Transformer movies. So, to me, I'm not getting too excited because Michael Bay is still the director.
Yeah.
So,
Agreed.
that's just it, and so...
Can I convince you by saying Space Turtles?
I would see that if
You had
it
me at
was a
Space
comedy.
Turtles.
If it was like a comedy.
It is a comedy.
All right, let's move on to the next topic here. Star Wars has been a huge topic of discussion for obvious reasons. Disney buys Lucasfilm, announced that they're coming out with not just one brand new Star Wars film in 2015, but they're going to be coming out with 3.
Redemption.
Very, very excited. Now, the big conversation has been, and rightly so, who is going to direct this thing? We've talked a bit about that, who we think should, who we think shouldn't. Dennis, remind me, put this in the show notes, some links to some videos that we did about people who should not direct it, and some people who should.
Brad Bird.
Brad Bird's one of the names on my list, actually, about who should. But it has come out officially who is writing it. Academy Award winner, as we mentioned in the newsflash, Academy Award winning writer Michael Arndt is going to be writing the scripts for not just the next Star Wars film, but the next 3 Star Wars films, Star Wars Episodes 7, 8, and 9, based reportedly on a treatment written by George Lucas. Arndt, as we mentioned in the newsflash, wrote Little Miss Sunshine and the upcoming Oblivion and the upcoming Hunger Games sequel as well. I think this is a very interesting choice. When you look at Little Miss Sunshine, obviously a wonderful, wonderful narrative, really good, but not at all in the style that you think of a Star Wars. But he's got Oblivion coming, which is a sci-fi film, and he's got the Hunger Games film, which I haven't had a chance to see yet, so I haven't been able to judge him on that.
He also wrote the screenplay for Toy Story 3.
Was he one of the writers for
Yeah.
Toy Story 3? I didn't realize that.
So I feel like he is very diverse. While he wouldn't have been like the one I thought of either, I feel like I have really liked his work for now. And it'll be interesting to see, what kind of spin he kind of puts on the energy of the world.
I mean, I'm sure the dialogue's not going to be like Little Miss Star Wars. You know what I mean? It's like them having like some kind of weird conversation while they're playing the space chess. But like, listen, I don't know if I'm going to do this. Like 5 minutes of
Or
that.
like Woody and Buzz.
Right.
You know? It's
Some
on.
strange conversation in the field and everybody's crying. It's not going to happen that way.
Yeah.
I think they just picked him because he's probably really good with dialogue.
right?
I mean,
Yeah.
if you think about all those
He is.
movies that you just listed in that he's doing, even if it's a feature film, it doesn't matter. He could be doing a film in the 40s as long as he can nail that dialogue and
Yeah.
not make it feel like the Tax Tariff Federation Trade Guild.
Yeah.
Like what's happening? Lightsaber, then the trade tariff. Ooh,
He is really good at dialogue.
What's happening? Boring.
And
But you
character development.
Yeah, get that story
Yeah.
and the characters. in
Yeah.
there.
But you know what this news does for me? It actually makes me very excited for Oblivion because clearly
I'm very excited for
that
Oblivion.
this Oblivion script must be amazing.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It must be amazing if they're going to go look at it and go, "You're
That's the
Star
guy.
Wars.
Yeah.
You're our Star
Yeah.
Wars
Yeah,
guy."
right?
Yeah.
And
pretty exciting.
And I always say this, like, regardless if it's an actor or a writer or a director, I've always said it's never a mistake to recruit talent. We have an Academy Award-winning writer here who's going to be on this. And I think for Star Wars, this is great news. But like I said, for me personally, it makes me even more excited for Oblivion. Like, it must be
I am really
that
excited.
good
Right.
for them to leapfrog a lot of the other guys. Also, just as a side note, we mentioned the newsflash. Zack Snyder says he's out. But do keep in mind, he also said he was out for Superman Man of Steel. And he's directing
Him
Superman
and
Man
Michael
of
Bay
Steel.
have a lot in common.
They do. Steven Spielberg came out and said, "Hey, listen, this isn't my genre. This is my best friend George Lucas's genre." I'm gonna
Disappointed
leave
to
it."
hear that.
Disappointed to hear that. He
Really?
would have been my first choice, but not
I
my
felt
only
it.
choice by any stretch of the imagination. Once again, talent. I think he's the greatest director to ever live.
Quentin Tarantino's Star Wars is interesting.
Right, but he also came out and said,
Yeah.
Tarantino comes out and says, "I'm out."
I never would've
He
thought
he
that.
actually didn't say anything nice either. He's like, "Nah, this is a stupid idea." So he's out of that as well. So some interesting names. It still leaves some names of mine on my list. I still would love to see Andrew Stanton direct it. I would still love to
I love
see
Andrew
several guys,
Stanton.
and I'd still love to see Brad Bird direct it.
You know, the interesting thing about Star Wars and Disney is that it's the entire universe of Star Wars. So keep in mind, even though we've got 3 movies of the trilogy telling the final stories of the Journal of the Wills and all the nerd stuff, getting excited about that stuff, there's also a lot of different spin-offs that are going to be happening. There's bounty hunters. There's, I mean, just think about all the different I mean, Disney is great about taking properties and expanding those properties
sure
and
are.
showcasing the characters of those properties. That's why it's great. I mean, I'm happy that, a lot of people are like, they're owning everything. It's like, well, that's keeping those cool characters alive for not just kids, but for adults as well, for as long as they can. Because, I mean, ideas come and go, and then you're like, well, whatever happened to, this character, that character? Well, that was from the 60s or 70s. They're always taking stuff and spinning it and keeping that universe alive. So I think we're going to have way more than just 3 movies, especially, I mean, look, you have Clone Wars right now. That's on Cartoon Network. That's going to come back to Disney. But there's so many other properties that they're developing and they're going to make that you just haven't even seen the tip of the iceberg.
And it's going to make so much money, and as long as it does, they'll just keep going. I think Andrew Stanton was a really interesting choice. Like, John Carter did not get a lot of love, but I thought it was a really good film.
If by not a lot of love you mean bombed.
Bombed, okay? I was putting it nicely. I really think, the marketing and all that, but the universe he created was great.
And let me correct myself here. I actually think the term bombed is misused. Because people will say, John Carter, biggest bomb in history. Like, I'm sorry. I know they spent a lot of money on the movie.
to the budget.
But when your movie makes $200 million, I'm sorry. It's disqualified from being called a bomb.
Right.
When a movie makes $3 million, call that a bomb.
Yeah.
Right.
And I understand, hey, but you got to look
Craziest
at
budget,
the
blah, blah.
cost to benefit ratio, blah, blah, how much. Look, I understand the movie lost a lot of money. It did.
Yeah.
But a lot of people went to go see it. And it's not just a good movie. I thought John Carter was a great movie.
It's great. The world, the characters, like the interactions, the development, everything was really good. And I think someone like Stanton could really come
And
in
it
here
has that
and
space
do it.
opera feel to it that
Exactly.
Star Wars has.
Yeah.
But, John, I think you were saying once before, it's like, Disney will just have a very difficult time because Carter lost so much money, saying, from the director of John Carter.
Right. That's not going to happen.
That would be different. Now, although I do know that Disney does not put the blame on him. They understand he gave them a good movie.
Yeah, the bomb part of John
The
Carter was
marketing.
the advertising.
Yeah, it was
Here's
awful.
strange white apes with a dude
Yeah.
and the name
Yeah.
John Carter. What
It
is
was
it, an
awful.
action adventure?
Yeah.
Was it Sly Stallone in it? John Carter? It's
Oh, it's great.
no, it's on Mars, son. What?
Yeah, Lynn Collins
What
was
are those
great. Everyone was
apes?
great in it.
Really just, I mean, I had to describe it to people after it had opened. I was like, I want to see John Carter. What? That thing with the red
Yeah.
background? What's it about? Is it a dream? It's like,
Kind of.
Too bad. All right, listen, that'll we got to wrap that up. Hey, listen, folks, we've been talking a little bit about Twilight here, and Twilight does open in AMC theaters every this weekend. You can go and get your tickets. Like I said, I think this is a good movie. I think you'll be happy to see it. You can get your tickets for Twilight Breaking Dawn Part 2 right now by going to www.amctheatres.com. So just hop on over there, and you'll see the links for buying your tickets to it. I think you'll be glad to see it, especially if you're an existing Twilight fan.
hey, I have a question about that.
Yes.
Is 10 p.m. the new 12 midnight for young adults?
It happens sometimes, doesn't it?
So 10 a.m. is the new Twilight? Is that it's like
Clever.
Very
I'd rather
funny.
10 a.m. Midnight movie for me is late.
I love midnight
Oh,
screenings.
I get so
do.
tired.
But earlier this week, I actually had a chance to go and sit down and talk with the cast of Twilight about the new film. And right now, I'd like to share with you the conversation that I had with myself and our Pats. Me and Robert Pattinson had a chance to sit down and talk a little Twilight. Here, check our conversation out right now. Rob, one of the things that jumped out to me the most right away in this movie, it is a very different tone, a very different feel from all the rest of the saga. It felt like you really successfully closed off a bunch of themes in the last film and moved into a whole new chapter. Did you guys sense that as well when you saw where Breaking Dawn was going to be split?
Yeah, it does in a funny sort of way, even though it's it kind of ties a little bow around everything quite nicely. Like, suddenly introducing 100 new characters and this whole international vampire society. Like, it really does seem like they're opening it up for sequels, but then they just end at the end. So yeah, it definitely did feel different standing on a battlefield with 100 demon vampires across the field.
Now, watching the movie as the end credits rolled, which were so creative, I almost felt a little bit like I was watching a marathon and seeing the runner finally cross that finish line. What is that experience like for you now? You've been involved in this franchise, you've lived this character for so many years, and now you're crossing that finish line. I have to imagine it's a little bitter and sweet at the same time. How are you feeling about it?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely. I think Edward's story was definitely closed out in this. I don't know where you would go particularly afterwards. So it was quite satisfying. Just saying, yeah, that's it now. But I mean, it's funny with the Twilight stuff because it's become so sort of culturally. Kind of overwhelming. It's people like doing the press is definitely a massive part of the job as well, way more so than other movies. So I don't think it's really done until the last premiere is done, and then I'll kind of know how to feel about it.
Now, we're talking about how this movie's so unique from the rest of them as well. You mentioned you closed out some of the elements with your character. When you were approaching the final film now, what new areas of Edward did you want to explore? Did you think you'd have the opportunity to explore going into the final film?
I mean, I just thought it was quite interesting. As soon as he has a child, he becomes more instinctive. He can't help it. Whereas in every single other one of the movies, he's constantly worrying about doom and gloom and trying to make plans about everything, and being very analytical and cerebral about things. And as soon as he has a kid, it's like, got to protect my kid. Nothing. Like, I mean, there's absolutely no thought to it whatsoever, and it kind of loosens up everything. He becomes almost lighter. So I think that was what I was aiming to do from the beginning. He starts off a fossil. Bella comes and he sort of suddenly cracks open and is overwhelmed by emotions for a bit, and then keeps trying to catch up to be a normal human being by the end of the series. and he's kind of normal at the end.
Well, listen, Robert, congratulations. I enjoyed this film a great deal. I think it's the best of the franchise by far, and we can't wait to have it on AMC screens.
Cool. Great.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thanks a lot.
Once again, Twilight Breaking Dawn Part 2 opens in AMC theaters everywhere tonight. You can go and get your tickets for it right now by going to www.amctheaters.com. It is time once again for our weekly installment of the Mailbag, where we throw it open to you guys. You guys can email us 24/7 with your questions to AMCMovieTalk@gmail.com. Once again, that's AMCMovieTalk@gmail.com. Now, every week we pick out a couple of the best emails and we read them on air. But also, we would love for you guys to send us a video email. Send us a video of yourself asking a question. And if we pick your video email, we'll send you a couple of free passes to a movie at AMC Theatres.
You're asking for trouble with video emails.
Oh, I know. But once again, send them to AMCMovieTalk@gmail.com. And we actually have a video email picked out this week. But let's start with the mailbag. Suri's got a couple picked out back there. So, Suri, what do we have?
All right. Okay. First up from JP. For Mr. Campea, at the start of the year when it was still FYC, you said that you didn't think you would see a better film this year after seeing the re-release of Disney's Beauty and the Beast. While 2012 isn't quite done,
fan.
do you still think that you haven't seen a better film, or have films like The Avengers, Argo, Dread, and any others convinced you otherwise?
Fabulous question. Argo is awesome.
Awesome.
Avengers is awesome. Dread was awesome. There's several other really great films that have come out this year. But Beauty and the Beast is one of the all-time greats. I remember I went to go see it for the re-release, and sitting in the theater, and I was so enraptured with that movie, just so swept up in it. You know, I get in these arguments all the time with really stupid people who will say, well, you can't count animated films as like amongst the great films, and you can't count animated films when talking about best picture of the year and blah blah blah. And look, I try to be as open-minded as I can about these
But they're
things.
really stupid.
But you're really stupid if you take that mindset. And I've had this argument with Academy voter members. You're really stupid if you think that. A narrative is narrative. A great story is a great story. A great film-going experience is a great film-going experience. And you're going to be really hard-pressed to come up with a lot of films that give you a better film-going experience than that original Beauty and the Beast. The music is magical. The characters are fantastic. It's funny. It's heartwarming. It's exciting. It's beautiful. It's just stunning to look at.
And the Beast is your bad boy.
And the Beast is your bad boy once again, who's actually got a heart of gold. I mean, so it's got everything you could possibly want. And so I went and watched it again. And I haven't seen Beauty and the Beast in about 5 years. And I went to go watch it again. And I almost had tears in my eyes because the movie is just so...
I love
it's
it.
perfect. It's a perfect movie. And so I'm going to go on record right now and say, look, of all the great films this year, we mentioned some, Argo, The Avengers, many others, it's no shame for on any of them for me to say none of them quite measure up to Beauty and the Beast. For me. That's just me saying that. But that's no shame on how great the other ones are. That's just a really tall order trying to be compared to Beauty. I don't know. What do you guys think?
And I mean, one of the big things is that it was re-released. So technically it's not a new film.
Oh, no, it's not new. It's a re-release.
So the new films that, you know, this year, the Argos, the Moonrise Kingdoms of the world, there's a lot of great movies that came out. But yeah, I mean, the animated movies really, like Toy Story 3, I think is one of the best movies ever. And sometimes, you know, it's not these days really catered to children. It's catered to adults. There's really, you know, underlying themes that are very adult and very real to what we're experiencing. And yeah, I loved Beauty and the Beast.
I may make a distinction between this. There are kid-targeted films and there are kid-friendly films.
Absolutely.
Pixar makes kid-friendly films.
Yes.
Disney, a lot of Disney films are kid-friendly films, and some are kid-targeted as well, and that's fine. But I remember I would have this debate for years because you had a string of Pixar films from WALL-E.
I loved WALL-E.
Ratatouille. Up. Each one of them, critically speaking, the #1 rated films of the year. And I think only one of them got nominated for Best Picture. And I remember I lost my mind at that. Because, well, it's animated. It doesn't count. You're an idiot.
You don't count.
You don't count.
Flip it on him.
You're stupid.
I cried in the first 10 minutes of Up. That broke my heart.
I cried in the first 10 minutes.
That
That
broke
movie,
my
I was like, I
heart.
can't believe they're messing with me so hard.
It was so good.
So crushing.
And no dialogue.
Yeah, beautiful.
So
You
powerful.
know, it's just... like you'll find some of the best stories.
Wait, guys, it
Absolutely.
doesn't count because it's animated.
Yeah. No.
It doesn't
It's
matter
for
that you
kids.
cried and it moved you. It's for kids.
Yeah.
Well, you know what my
Not
opinion
true.
is? It's a world cinema now more than ever. And like, I mean,
Absolutely.
people like Miyazaki's films, Spirited Away, like that's becoming just normal for Americans to know about all these films that, you know, even like up to 10 years ago were just a specialty market that you'd have to go somewhere special to get this weird release or see it in a strange cinema somewhere. It just it wasn't a wide release type thing. And I think also, I mean, at least the way myself and certain people think about films is I break everything into genres as opposed to like, what's the best film? I'm like, what's the best science fiction film? What's the best horror film? What's the best animated film? Because there's so many different types of movie-going experience. What's the best action film? What's the best... I just do that for myself because I don't want to categorize anything.
It's not apples to apples.
Yeah, nothing is the best to me ever. It's all like in categories and what did I personally like? Because you know what all of us like is all going to be different, and you might like things for different reasons. That doesn't mean that we don't like the same other films for the same reasons. So I think everybody wins in different realms. Like I loved Dredd, and I'm so bummed that was a bomb because it just didn't get the word out quickly enough. I know a lot of people started going towards the end of its run just because people like us were word of mouthing it. We're like, I can't believe you didn't see this movie. And the people are running to the theater the last 2 days it's playing, and they're like, it's not playing anymore. That's what I heard from like 5 friends. I was like, well, I'm sorry. Now you missed out. You know, you don't get to see it in the glorious 3D.
It won't be the same at home.
Yeah. So, you know, I mean, that's my opinion is like for like a best picture of any kind, it's like, you know, differentiating it. If you're going to glom everything together, there shouldn't be any kind of differentiation unless you're going to subcategorize everything.
Right. And let me just qualify what I was saying. What I said was that I don't think I'll see a better film this year. When I saw it, I said I don't think I'll have a better film going experience. And
very big difference.
Avengers comes real close. Real close. But anyway, that's that. What else do we got in the mailbag, Suri?
Next up from James B. Hey guys, love the show. What do you guys think of the director of Chronicle taking on the Fantastic Four reboot? Do you think it is a good fit? Why or why not?
I really like Josh Trank. Sorry to interrupt, my
Go
dear.
ahead, no, finish it.
Okay, P.S. There already is a good Fantastic Four movie. It's just not called Fantastic Four. It's called The Incredibles.
Very true. Sorry, you were saying Josh Trank?
I like Josh Trank. You know, Chronicle was definitely that low-budget sleeper hit that, like, made a lot of money, and I thought he did a really good job. And, you know, Chronicle 2 is definitely happening, and I do think I actually interviewed him for Chronicle, and he's very intelligent, and he really understands the marketplace that he's dealing with, and I think he really has a cool eye. You know, usually that shaky cam tactic, I feel, is a cop-out if it's not done correctly, and in his, you know, vision, I really think he did justice to it, and he really made you know, see the whole development of what everyone would like to think, like what would happen if you got a superpower, and actually the development of it. So I think it's great news.
I unequivocally love Chronicle. I loved that movie. And you know, I'm one of these guys who was sick and tired of the found footage film. I'm tired of it. And so I went into it not very high expectations. Although, you know, the trailers look cool, but still not very high expectations. Trank, who directed it, the name of the kid who
Max Landis. It's
Landis,
John
thank
Landis'
you.
son. He's like a nutball unto himself. Is a manic ball of weird, strange energy. I've hung out with him a couple times. He's like a motor mouth weirdo, but he's really funny. He's very opinionated, and he wrote a great script. He wrote a Superman Lex Luthor story better than the Superman Returns
and Frankenstein,
movie.
right?
Yeah, and Frankenstein. He made a really cool comment.
Did you see his YouTube video
I saw it
describing
afterwards.
Superman?
Yes.
So funny. But the script is so clever, so original. And I love what Trank did say. He said, you know, look, what would really happen if some high school students got superpowers? What would they really do with it? And they looked at that. I thought it was beautifully told.
Yeah.
The characters were fantastic. I loved the ending.
Yes. I loved the ending.
And there's been word out that he has written a script for part 2, and Fox sent it back.
Yeah. And
that basically Fox wanted, no, we just want the first one again.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, this is the evolution of it. This is where it goes from there. And so now there's kind of a fight going on, and I hope Landis wins.
Yeah.
Because I want to see where they go from here.
Yeah.
I want to know what happened down in that damn cave.
Yep.
I want to know how the hero at the end, where he goes from there. I want to see the villain kid come back. I mean, there's so many things. And so the fact that a guy like that who's that kind of vision, stepping in and taking over a property like Fantastic Four, which, let's call it what it is. That franchise needs help.
It needs a reboot.
It needs a reboot. It deserves a reboot.
Desperately.
Because they're such great characters.
Yeah.
Those two movies are, you know, just part of like the dust of bad attempts at making what is an amazing idea for a comic book, Fantastic Four. Like, I can reread any of those Stanley Jack Kirby's any day, and they're always fun. They're always refreshing.
Even the hotness of Jessica Alba couldn't save it, so.
Yeah, I mean, Josh Trank having one feature under his belt, I was like,
But
really?
a damn good
Him?
feature.
As opposed to all these other directors. But in the same token, it's like, why not? He did a great first film. I'm sure Fantastic Four under him is not going to be all handheld with like Sue Richards, like, look, I've got you on my iPhone, Reed, like stretching arm, pixel vision. I'm sure it'll be like a real movie. It's like, it's all shot shaky cam, first person. What? You flip out probably, but I'm sure it's going to be really fun. And,
Yeah.
He's got an eye for cartoon and superhero characters because he was up for doing Venom. He was up like all the movies after Chronicle was all these superhero characters. I don't think when you interview him, he's like, what I really want to do is Little House on the Prairie. I'm just being cornered into this superhero thing.
He's a real
Jeez,
fan.
yeah.
You can tell.
All right, it's time to get to our video email. This week, we chose a video email from Quinnell, who writes in or videos himself in to talk a little bit about Jurassic Park. Here's what Quinnell has to ask.
Hi, guys. I was just sending you a message to ask, do you all see a Jurassic Park 4 or a reboot of the Jurassic Parks coming out since this Jurassic Park 3D is coming out? Thank you for letting me ask my question.
All right, thanks for the question. Don't forget, you can send us your video email questions. If we pick yours to use in the show, we'll send you a couple free movie passes to AMC Theatres. So, John, let's start with you. You think there's a lot of talk about Jurassic Park 4. There's even an IMDb page for it. Well, what do you think? You think it could happen? Do you think it should happen?
I think Jurassic Park 4 should be called Jurassic Park 4 Quadruplets, starring Schwarzenegger, DeVito, Eddie Murphy, and Jason Statham.
Ashton Kutcher probably, too.
He's the hard ass, like, yo, we're going to take those Stegosauruses out, son, with all the quadruplets riding brontosauruses. It's a CG comedy freak out. Schwarzenegger, he's got a gun in the ass. Oh, excuse me. He's got a gun. You can bleep that, right? Anyway, I think Quinnell, I love your name. I wanted to say it several times. Quinnell. I think it's a great idea, and why don't they make it already? I mean, I thought Jurassic Park 3 was great.
I've loved them all. I love the prehistoric times. I do. I just think it's such a fun story.
They're so Hollywood ready. I mean, big, giant dinosaurs roaming nests and stuff.
It's
In
awesome.
fact, it's like that's the movie Jurassic Park put CG on the map.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like the first real good CG. Those are dinosaurs in the CG. What? All of a sudden, industry explosion. It's like, can you just make some more CG dinosaurs that don't look like Terra Nova?
Right.
Yeah.
Like how about some really good? And then I've seen production designs from the fourth version that's not going to happen, where they had a pterodactyl humanoid.
Yeah, I was gonna say the human thing there.
Did I just
Oh, you just twist the there you go.
Yeah, like the humanoid versions of the art,
The
pre-production art.
crossbred.
Yeah, I mean, any of that. Let's just make it. That's how I feel about it.
I love it.
Quinnell and everybody else who wants to see it, just make.
And that's
Part
a movie
4.
in 3D that's going to be really cool. I
Yeah.
think that is actually a movie that
Jurassic Park 3 is gonna look great.
That's what happens though. People like bust around and don't do anything, and then you have like weird news like triplets. Like really, from 1980, you're still going to make a
there's such a
sequel to
demand
that?
for it.
Or Ghostbusters 3? Come on, how about just come up with something new? I mean, that's what happens if people are like, well, we do have that sequel. I know, but that script didn't work out. That's 25 years ago.
Yeah.
So get on it.
Well,
Jurassic
Arnold
Park
is
4.
looking for a comeback. So.
But here's the interesting thing about Jurassic Park. It's like all film franchises feel like when they go to the next film, they got to up the stakes, So in the first Jurassic Park, you have the T-Rex, which so good.
So good.
And you know what stands up today?
Sure.
It sure
Then in the
does.
next one, I believe Jurassic Park 2, when is the one where they got into that new dinosaur that eats the Tyrannosaurus Rexes? I don't know if it was 2 or 3, but they seem like need to up the
feel
scale.
like
but
it's
you know what?
Third. I
If
think
you
it's the
do
third.
Jurassic Park 4, you have the T-Rex. You don't need to up the stakes. You got the T-Rex.
Who's scarier than the T-Rex?
Who's bigger and badder than the T-Rex? Nobody. You just I don't care if you have them on another island. I don't care if you let them loose in Los Angeles again or New York at the first one, wherever it was. Whatever.
Give
it's
us some
giant dinosaurs.
Yeah,
Let's
have a
do
bunch
this.
of them.
You
Yeah.
can't mess this up.
Let's do
You know,
this.
that's just the opening shot for the trailer. It's like you just see L.A., Hollywood Boulevard, and just like 500 dinosaurs running down the
Or
street.
he takes a bite of the Hollywood sign.
Some dude is like
Perfect.
got the just rip off the Spielberg moment. Somebody's having coffee, and it's like, what? And then it's just like, It's just like
Yes.
600. And that would
I'm
be like,
in.
I'd go see that movie.
Me
Instantly
too.
sold. Come on.
I'm in. I'm
too.
totally in. Well, listen, folks, we have run out of time. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you everybody who wrote in for the mailbag. Once again, don't forget, send in your questions to amcmovietalk@gmail.com, whether you're just written emails or send us some video emails. If we pick yours, we will send you some movie passes. I want to thank, as always, first of all, sitting beside me, Miss Amirose Eisenbach, Mr. John Schnepp,
Yo.
Dennis Zen back there,
Yo.
and, of course, Suri Serrano sitting at the back table there. And thank you guys again. Once again, don't forget you can get your tickets for Twilight right now, or Lincoln, or James Bond, or any of the films playing right now
Lots of
in
good
AMC
ones.
Theaters everywhere. Go to www.amctheaters.com. Once again, subscribe to this YouTube channel. You wanted to wait till the end of the show? Well, now you have. Click subscribe. Click that and become one of our followers on YouTube. Thanks so much. And as always, my name is John Campia for AMC Movie News. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.